Now, we all know that this NIL space, name, image, likeness, it's really transformed college sports, and it is reshaping how we look at athletes entering the pros. Let's just keep it real. We look at these young athletes as pros, some as young as high school. I have two sons that are in college right now navigating this space, and it is murky waters, and it is ever evolving. So the focus that I have as a parent is to make sure that not only that they are fully equipped, but I am as well. So I'm excited about this conversation to explore this new landscape. Please welcome our moderator, Ken Shropshire, along with Bryce Young and Marshall Faulk. Ken, I will hand it over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to try to tie together a lot of this stuff for you. The initial panel with Cam and Logan really raised the issues that we're going to talk about, this idea of what's NIL doing in this space and how's it changing these men? What's different for the men coming in the league today versus in the past? So give you a clue why Marshall's here.
Yes.
And Marshall's here for a couple reasons too. I mean, first of all, to talk about the past, but also as a coach, as a college coach, who are these men you're dealing with now? And for everybody in the room, in your whatever space you're in, how should you think about these men differently? So we got the ideal people to talk about this. So Bryce, who's really the first generation of having come into the league with this NIL opportunity and having these dollars, having this monetized kind of state, this idea of being represented early, and this idea, and it was raised in the initial panel, and I think it's really important, the idea of really understanding what equity is and asking for something that's going to get you beyond being rich, but start thinking about generational wealth. So that's really what we want to try to get to, is to give you a chance to think about who these men are. You know, the Cam and Logan had been in the league. Their stories sound like for a while before they understood a lot of this stuff. We want to talk about what it means to be coming in the league with it now. So Bryce, let's start off with that as the first question. I mean, from what you see, from your own experience and otherwise, what's different about the men coming in now as opposed to in Marshall's day? And then Marshall will ask you the kind of same thing.
Yeah, like you said, I was kind of that first generation. Actually, the off season of going into my sophomore year of college was when the law got passed. Everything was NIL actually surfaced and was able to come in. And for me, being in a very interesting set of circumstances, I was at the University of Alabama. I hadn't played yet, so I was earning my job as a starter there, and it was honestly kind of like it is now. It was no one knew what it was, what it was going to be. People have been planning about it for about, a year or two, right, but no one knew what it was going to, how big it would be, what it was going to be like. So, for me, it was very interesting because also I still got all of my recruitment in my first year, where that was never a part of it. I never thought about money when I was getting recruited. There was no, it wasn't around yet. So I was still going to college without money being on the table. And then all of a sudden it was just, that you get the email, it breaks, and it's like, now you have an opportunity to have money, and you have a bunch of people approaching you like, oh, I can get you hundreds of dollars, I can get you thousands of dollars, I can get you tens of and it's like, where is it going to be? And I kind of had to find my way, and now obviously it's grown into being multiple multi-million-dollar stuff at the top end, and then it also being a scale for it could range anywhere amongst all the sports, both sides, whatever it may be. So yeah, for me it was a cool journey. It was very interesting, and I feel like it's something now transitioning. For me, how I always looked at it was, before, for a long time, your rookie deal, your rookie contract is the first time you have any sort of real money for a lot of people, and especially for young individuals. And that's for a lot of people, that's a crazy change, from coming into whatever it is, being a struggling college student, to now, if you're a high pick, now having multiple millions of dollars, and it's this crazy, now you're a professional, and now you carry yourself differently. And I think now you see people coming in now with a lot more financial literacy, with a lot more understanding, because now for 3 years they've they know what it's like to have money. They've signed a NIL deal out of high school. They've had whatever it may be in their account. So, you get that buffer, that period of you still get to be in college, but now I've had my first experience with money. I've learned what, I've learned where to put I've learned what an account is. I've learned the little stuff that, you never really think about until you get in that situation. So now, hopefully for most people, once you get that first contract, it's not, hopefully you're able to just sustain. You're able to now be like, okay, now my life isn't changing. I can focus on my life changing professionally, but now I don't have to worry about all the dynamics that come with, oh, now my family knows that I have this. Now I have people to take care of, all that stuff. I think it's cool to kind of get a little buffer before you get to the league.
Started with it.
Yeah.
Marshall, how's it look to you as somebody who didn't get to participate in that? Once you get over not participating in that.
I mean, I'm over that part. I mean, some of us, we understand that trailblazers, that you got to have them. And I actually, looking at it, I'm happy for them. There's just this element of, and what's hard for like, whether you're a coach or a fan, if you're alumni, what college used to be in a sense, for evaluators, you got to see how much somebody loved the game. When you went to college, you wanted to go to college. It was like, okay, 3 years, and then I get to the league. And that's what it used to be like. And now guys are spending 6 years in college. And it's kind of weird, when you have a 24, 25-year-old playing against an 18-year-old. But that's where the game is going, and that's where the business is. And for a coach, you're trying to figure out, because as we talk about NIL, NIL is one thing. That's your name, image, and likeness. And as a school, we get to use that with some of our sponsors and business owners around in the community that want to use your likeness, and they'll help the school. But then there's the collective part of it, to where the school just raised money and they pay you to take care of you, which is a little different than NIL. And a lot of times those two get confusing for a lot of people. You actually need to have a name, an image, and a likeness for us to go out and market to people. But if you've never played in college, you don't really have that. And so it's a little convoluted. And I think we're getting to a space to where we can navigate it, and we know for sure that college athletes do need more money than what a scholarship provides. That's always been the case. And I think as we continue to go, we'll find the balance in it to help a lot of the kids, because it's just imagine if you're on that team and you're getting nothing and somebody's getting something, but you guys are both starting.
And as a coach, that's got to be,
it's hard,
really difficult, which gets me to this big question about who's doing this, who's handling this well, the league, the union, individual teams, in this changing atmosphere. Who's really seems to understand we've got to do things differently now? I mean, Bryce, what do you think, in your experience, who's recognizing that the men are different than they were when they came in earlier?
Yeah, I've been a little detached from the ins and outs of sure. What every individual university is doing. But I think that obviously it's now it's the same challenge that you get to when you get to the NFL. And it's the challenge of like you said, it's certain guys are getting compensated in one way, certain guys are getting compensated very differently. And how do you balance that? How do you balance those dynamics? How are you able to show up to work? How do you deal with that? Sometimes stuff that's not fair. And obviously being able to see stuff like that, it's a unfortunate byproduct of things. But that's kind of what business is in a lot of senses. I think there's definitely ways to improve it, definitely ways to make it more efficient. I agree. It feels like it's going towards a better space. But that's obviously the pros and cons that come with now being able to compensate your players for all the stuff that's going on. And you as a coach might have a better insight of who's doing well or not, but yeah.
Who's doing well, and who do you see needs to catch up and get on board and do things better?
I think in all phases, everybody's growing. Every year we learn something different, something new. One of the things that's very complicated about the space is that contract that you sign. It's a 1-year contract. Like every year now, we're in free agency. They play for you, and it's free agency, and it's hard to build continuity. It's hard to build the brotherhood between the kids, and I'm afraid that aspect of it then warps when they go to the league, and now you have a contract, and you got to stay, compete, grow, and get better, not just go somewhere else because you can play. It's really going to be difficult for the kid to navigate the landscape of what the NFL is. Because once you sign that contract in the NFL, just because you're not getting playing time, you can't go jump in the portal. They have your rights.
Right.
But in college, it's a little different, and we're going to see these kids that's on school number 4 when they get to the NFL, if they get to the NFL, how they navigate that. But I think all in all, we're doing the best that we can with it. And the number one thing is the kids in college, they're being taken care of. They can take care of their families. And, we're just trying to figure out what's best practice. Like, how do you do it the best? How do you make sure that everybody is taken care of? Do you move to a rev share model to where all the kids get something? I know some schools with the scholarship, you get $2,000 a month, you get $2,500 a month, just to make sure the kids are getting something. And then if you have the NIL, you have a name, an image, and a likeness that the school can monetize, they help you monetize it.
So Bryce, as you look at it, do you have any thoughts about problems that are occurring in terms of how men are coming in, and missing out on the idea of being? It's almost like everybody gets a trophy.
It's that. For sure, it's that.
Yeah, you definitely see guys coming in, and it's different. It's guys that, instead of being a rookie that's now it's their first time navigating what car, what house. You have guys coming in that have already have a lot of that stuff done, and it's not as big of a wow factor. Honestly, it's not as big of a, oh my goodness, I'm in the league now, I'm getting paid now, it's all professionals. College athletes are professionals now, so it's like
somewhat.
They're
getting paid like professionals. Somewhat.
Yeah, but they have the same. It's the same. Obviously, you have different scheduling, different stuff, but you're, like you say, you're getting paid. You're having expectations. You know what it's like with how the media is. So obviously there's a step and there's a change, but you see a lot of guys coming in, and it's maybe as a guy who's been there, it's like, oh, maybe it'd be cool to see some guys walk in and be like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, NFL, and you don't really get that much. But also, you get guys that come in and now they're like, yeah, this is business as usual. Obviously a lot of guys that get drafted or have success, they've had success in college, so you see them be able to get into it quicker. You see them, oh yeah, this is not my first time working with a listing agent. I'll figure it out. I already have an agent. I know where to live. Now I can get to work. So I think in the same way that you can lose some things, you also gain a bit of professionalism.
Yeah. And Cam and Logan were talking about this, and I did want to circle back to it. It's the older days. I mean, even everybody kind of, a good deal is when I get a lot of money. I mean, and now there's this greater frame of mind of getting some ownership, getting this equity interest amongst not just your deals, but your colleagues, contemporaries who went through this phase. What kinds of conversations are taken about what a good deal is? What you're looking for when somebody says, we want you to be a part of this company or a part of this product? What kinds of questions are you asking now? Yeah.
I'm glad that you asked. I think for myself individually, a lot of people that I've been able to have the privilege to be around. I think the importance is there's a difference between doing a transaction and, every once in a while there's time and place where, you are doing something that is for one time or for the, all right, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, here's a payment. And, those things have their place. And then there's partnerships. And I think for one, it's for us as athletes and as individuals, it allows us to grow, it allows us to give our all to a product. It allows us to align and be authentic. I'm a big believer that when you do partnerships, when you're doing things, you can feel the authenticity. You can see someone who's up there like, okay, I clearly just got a deal, it was whatever for a little bit of cash. I'll be here for an hour. I don't really care. And then you see the guys that are invested. I'm a believer that authenticity, it'll show. The people, the consumers will be able to feel that. And also, again, for the business side, you get that authenticity, and you get that buy-in, you get that collective. When you're able to partner with someone, you have someone now on their own think, okay, hey, this is an idea I had, because everyone's winning. Their success is your success. You guys are tied in together, and when you're able to get that buy-in, that you're able to be tied at the hip like that, I feel like you are able to get the best versions of each other. And I think that's the win-win that comes with those types of partnerships.
And Marshall, when did it click for you? Looking back in terms of your career and timing of learning this difference in business besides getting paid versus getting a piece of the business.
Right. When you understand what equity does, sometimes taking less, getting equity, and then what equity does for you in a sense. If I'm a company, I want to give an athlete equity, because now that breeds loyalty. Mm-hmm. You now have a reason to wear whatever clothing it is. You have a reason to then advertise, to talk about, to be a part of. If they're just a brand ambassador, it's one thing, but you give them equity, it's a whole nother conversation. Mm-hmm. And I learned early, that's where you want to be. It's not always the upfront money, because if they're paying you this upfront money, there's some back end money there too. And you got to ask the questions to make sure that you're a part of the whole deal, not just the beginning part of the deal. Mm.
And at this front end, college kids, are they asking?
We're talking about it. These are conversations that are being had now. Although you may come from an impoverished community and you don't know a lot about money, you have to surround yourself. Even I'm talking freshmen coming into college. If you have a name, image, and a likeness, you have a good following on social media, you need to start having these conversations, because these conversations will allow you to not leave money on the table.
Well, let me ask you both the same question. If we start winding down in time, what's 5 years from now? If this all goes right, what's it look like? What's happening right in terms of this whole space of NIL, portal, and men coming into the league?
I'm going to default to you to start off.
Right.
5 years seems like a lifetime to you.
Right. I say eventually we move into the space to where, college becomes the minor leagues for every sport, in a sense. Right now, what's really tough to navigate is, and I think it's unfair in the space, and it's literally like, to me, I can't get it out of my head that if I give a kid a scholarship and I give him money, I have to adhere to this contract for 4 years. But at any point in time, he could leave and he doesn't owe me anything. And if I don't have the right to, like in the NFL or in any other sport, to cancel out of that contract, and he does, how do you balance that? When this kid doesn't want to practice, doesn't want to play? In college, I can't do anything, but if he decides that he wants to go play somewhere else, so the rights are just in the kid's favor a little bit too much, in a sense, to where it has to balance out. And I think the only way it balances out is if it becomes a business as a business, instead of, oh, this is school, he's a student athlete, he just has an opportunity to make money off of his name, image, and likeness.
Bryce, let me ask you a little bit different question then. What's the, as we start to close out, the best lesson you've learned about personal branding? I mean, in this experience, what's the best message you could convey?
Yeah, I think the one thing that probably the best message I've gotten about branding is that your brand goes so much further than the football field. It's easy to kind of have narrow vision and look at my brand as, okay, a jersey or a highlight. And, I think I've been able to learn the value and the importance, how much further it goes. It goes to connections, it goes to relationships, it goes to networks. And also that you're a living, walking representation of that brand at all times. How you treat people, that's your brand. How you how you show up, when you show up, how you communicate, how you do business. All of that stuff is your brand. There's no aspect that is isolated from the rest of it. And I think because of that, knowing the power that brings, it just gives you more intentionality about preserving it and putting your best foot forward.
I'm going to let the Hall of Famer close it out in a couple of seconds. Is all of this good for the game?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Here's how I see it. Where was this money?
now it's coming out.
The kids are getting it, but where was it going? It was still being made, okay? But where was it going? And I just want you to think about that. So it's good for the game, no doubt about it. It's really created an awareness. Bryce and his era and starting it, it's just the kids, they have to be more, like you said, brand aware. And don't just align yourself with the brand for the money. It has to become a lifestyle so it's easy for you to live and be aligned with the brand.
Well, thank you both for giving us this great insight on this new emerging topic. Thank you.